Alright, this video I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to be trying to put kind of like a marble coating on a couple pieces of wood. They're going to be used for a project I'm working on. I'm going to make a little diorama, and it's going to do this with the base and top to kind of give me an idea of what's going on. Give me a little bit different look to it. So, jump right in. Gotta mix all my stuff together first. Start setting up my resin and so I can add my colors to it. I'm not quite sure exactly how much I'm going to use, but try one the first, see how that one goes. So tell me what I want to do with my second one. So I figure I'll go ahead and just put 30 grams of each in. Perfect. Resin. Hardener. I didn't think that one through right, did I? Screwed up. Crap inside that cup. Alright. Now, I'm going to start setting this up first, so when I get done pouring it, when I get done, just go right up straight into it. Take the wood, masking tape, Alright, now this is a messy process to do. I put down some wax paper to help kind of keep my stuff try and contain my mess a little bit more. Okay, I got that ready. Start mixing this. Okay. It's kind of neat how this turns out. I'm gonna find out how it turns out. I've never really tried it before, but it's gonna be an interesting process. Found it online, thought it was a great idea, but then I found out I just want to try a small process first before I go into the bigger part of it, because it's not cheap and you can make major problems for later on if you do it fast. So I can just sit down for a little bit. I don't like wasting resin all that much. All I did was just take wax paper, super glued it, or not super glued, but hot glued it down to the silicone mat. Shouldn't need anything else, especially with the tape holding it on. If you want to use the masking tape to kind of help, because it'll actually try and fold it, will kind of fall down, but it'll also help contain it and let it start getting harder. It'll keep it a little thicker. This is a real messy project or process because you just got to let it all run off. So I'm probably going to be doing both sides of them, and to get them both looking the same way, it's going to take a while, I think. But I like the idea of how I like the idea and the process, and it's the idea that I wouldn't even have thought of when I saw it. To help kind of speed things up, you can also stick your resin in warm water, not boiling water. I've had mistakes where I've used too much hot water and mixed the two together, and the chemical reaction was so hot it literally melted the cup in my hand. Luckily I was holding it at the top and everything was at the bottom. I had the whole cup go from one of these that size to this size in a matter of minutes. Also, when you heat it up, it'll Now I'm going to do another small amount to run over it. Do you want to mix again? Don't need nearly as much for what I'm going to do. Probably just a couple grams total. Just 6 grams. See how that goes. Starting to drip. There. Why turn that back on? Don't need it. This mix I'm doing, I'm just going to have black strictly for it. I'm not mixing any of, not mixing any of the silver into it because I want to put just black lines throughout it. So I don't have to worry about pouring it into another cup to mix it together. Now I can just do it with the black. Oh, I'm dripping out of my spot now. Now, move this over so you guys can see what I'm actually doing with it. So what I'm going to do, this is where I kind of make a mess with it, which is fine. Mine, I'm just doing it this way so I can kind of get an idea. Just add a little bit more of a design to it, just messing around with it.
Is that a good glove?
Hmm?
Is that a good glove?
Type of glove.
Glove?
Over in the shed, there's a couple. Should be enough. Now I'm noticing something. I have a slight issue of it wanting to do something I don't want it to. Also, remember, you want to try and keep it level. How this is going to turn out. I think I'm going to leave it, let it sit, come back like a couple hours, maybe in the morning because it's starting to get kind of late during the day. Let it sit, see how it, I'll check on it a couple times throughout the day, the evening. Hopefully this doesn't turn out too bad. There might be other things I could have done differently. Thinking I might have been a good idea to actually put something over the wood. Maybe sand it down a little bit more to kind of help let it grip onto it a little better. But I think what I have now, I just gotta wait for it and let it see how it turns out. Run the heat gun over it real quick again. kind of tell it's already thickening up a little bit. But I want it to cure better. So it usually takes about 20 minutes for my epoxy to go through and be palatable and be able to touch it and mess with it more. This one might be different because most likely it'll take longer because I used the paint on it. It makes the paint in, which will help, which will throw off the drying process and curing and everything. Some people do this is they kind of make out a little, make out little like cup holders, and seen people do this process for doing tumblers for cups. Sit there and have something rotate it real slow and let it kind of make its own. The design of it kind of makes it look a little neater. I can tell I'm dripping a little bit throughout the bottom edges. So right here, kind of see it'll drip every once in a while in it. So now, just go ahead and wait, come back, see where I'm at. Kind of see some of the bubbles still coming, but that'll be fine because the metallic, that helps with not being able to see it, seeing the air bubbles that are in it, which is actually a good thing for me. A little less work, but I can still see them popping, coming to the surface. And then, after it's done and it's secured and everything, probably after I do the other side with it, I gotta go through and put another layer, just a complete clear coat on it. See how, then that should be able to do what I need. Because this other company that where I've been watching these videos is they actually have it, the way theirs actually mixes up and works out is it's all for countertops. Their countertops the countertops turn out really good, but then what they also turn into is they can cut, you can cut stuff on it. You can take hot pans, set it on it, and it won't work or it won't affect it or anything once it's been put down. Which is kind of neat, because you're just basically putting a marble effect throughout your kitchen without spending the thousands of dollars. Where most of them you can buy they sell kits in it or through their site, and you can make it for your kitchen a little less than $300, which is really great. But you have to be ready, because you got to do a lot of prep work and be ready for it. So that's why I'm actually testing out and practicing these different things every once in a while before I go on to a project that big. I really do like how they do all their stuff. It's pretty neat. So they actually have classes and everything. They'll do displays and different types of like conventions where they'll let people just do one big table. They'll just make the mix, and then they let a group of people go through and actually just all at the same time kind of mix it together and do what they want with it. And it's actually kind of neat to watch. I'll put a link in, because it's actually I came across them on YouTube, and then I discovered they had a whole site for their stuff, which I didn't know. And since I watched that, that changed my whole idea on how to do my epoxy stuff. Because the company's is called Rock Coat Stone Coat Countertops is what it's called. Yeah, Stone Coat Countertops. I've seen it. They were doing one with it that they did. They actually took a mini sledgehammer and hit the counter that they had just finished after everything was cured and put back together and cleaned up. This guy got the little 5-pound mini sledge and hit it, and it didn't even affect the countertop at all. So when I see something like that, then it tells me this might be something worthwhile. Alright, well, I'm going to let this sit. I'll come back later, see how we're doing. Just remember on this stuff is you can always, if it doesn't work, as long as you're using the right parts, it won't be that big of a fix. So if I have any hanging over, I'll just go ahead and just sand it down. And then start on my next one the next time I come out, or once this one starts curing more. Give me an idea of what I'm looking at. So we're done for now, and I'll come back in a little bit, see how we go. Alright, got done with my first one. Turned out pretty good. I like the look of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do my second. First one, metallic in it, got the swirl, came out pretty good. I'm just going to make sure I'm going to let it sit, cure all the way through. But while I'm waiting for that one, I'll go ahead and mix together my next one, start making it up. 30 grams of each actually turned out to be pretty decent. It worked out just right. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep using that amount. So let's get to that real quick. Okay. Let this zero out. Some of it's still sticky and I still got it around. Let this sink in, let this sit, work itself out. Luckily these other bottles of resin that I have, I actually let it sit inside for overnight, so the mixture is pretty good in it. It's a little warmer, a little thick, runs out a little easier. So believe I'm gonna just make these their own video, and then once I go through and start doing the diorama and assembling it, I'm gonna make it its own video. Then do it that way. And then just add a link if anybody wants to know how I made that or made these up. Otherwise, they can do it themselves, and it won't be as long of a video. Alright. I don't think I'm going to put as much paint into it this time. Paint throws off some of it, so I'm not going to put as much in. Try to get the same effect. Okay. Alright. Now, alright. Paint. Almost forgot a step. Turns out. A little more paint in. Silver. Stuck to it. I kind of see a problem here. Didn't put enough of the black in, so it's kind of getting a little translucent. You can see through it. We can kind of see through it. It's going to mix together a little bit more black. Trying to see if I can get that to kind of help cover it up. Maybe getting it level too will help. See where still having more go to this side. Try and get it a little better. Actually, I'm not going to worry too much on this one because I can actually use it as the base of it. I'll still have the effect of the black and everything. I still have the same effect. Just won't be as dark. So I can just set it down, face down, so that when I do the diorama, I can see what I'm doing. I'll go ahead, I'll mix together a little bit more black to mix in, put in with it. Alright. Put 10 grams of epoxy in. Use the colder epoxy now to kind of warm it up a little bit. Kind of swirl these together a little more. Shoot. That sucks. Can't believe I just did that. There we go. This is kind of the pattern that I did with the other one. I did little swirl designs in it. Kind of like the outcome of it, so I'm going to go ahead and just repeat it again. Sticking to everything. I need to switch out all my papers. Kind of a pain. Alright, now the way to prop this up a little higher. Alright, that'll do. That'll do for now. Now I gotta sit and watch this one kind of dry out. I put the tape on a little better on this one so that it's not gonna have as much leak out as I did on the last one. Brings out one of the silver doing that. That'll do good. Alright, so I'm going to let this one sit. I'll come back later, do it again, see how this one's turning out. Shouldn't be too bad. Shouldn't take as long to dry, but we'll find out. So that's it for now. I'll come back again later. Let you see more. Alright, back now. Gonna finish these. Both sides are cured where I can actually grab it without anything being sticky. Alright, while I'm masking off of it. Alright. The excess that is hanging over from it being this way, just going to take a knife, cut it right off, so I can get ready for the next part of it. I'm just kind of cutting it off on the corners because since I'm going to just pour over it again, less worry, or I could just peel it off like that, I guess. Alright, this was the second one I did. Tape stuck a little better, didn't have as much seep through the tape like I did on this one. This is the first one. You can always sand it off, but I'm trying to avoid as much sanding as I need to. It could go bad for me, probably. Alright. At the top like this, I'm not going to worry about doing it yet for the other side because I'll go through and I'll cut all that off when I go to put the clear coat on it. So I can worry about this first. Now what I'm going to do on this is I'm not going to run the tape along the edges, completely on the edge, going around it. I'm actually going to do it different so that it can actually run down the sides as well for me. But there is one thing I'm going to do different before I put it on. So I'm going to paint, just going to hit it real quick with a light coat of black spray paint, just to kind of give it a better background so I don't have to risk it like on this one where it's kind of clear on the edge or in some of the silver. I didn't put enough of the black in when I was trying it before. sure I got all the tape off. Alright. So I didn't make it perfectly. I just put a little bit on, try and cover up what I need to. Probably going to soak in some, which is fine. Let this dry a little bit. While that's drying, I can actually start getting ready for my epoxy. Alright. With these, on this one, I'm actually just going to do both of them at the same time. Instead of just pouring one, letting it sit, and then come back and do the second one later. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this first, and for some reason I just grabbed my paint. I'm not sure why I did that, I wasn't thinking. Just grab that, so the paint's definitely still wet. Alright. I guess I can go ahead and start doing the tape on it though. Give you an idea of how I'm doing this. Since I'm not doing it the same way, I'm going to have to go around it. You can see how I'm doing the tape, so when it does start running, so when the epoxy does start going down the sides of it, all it'll do is just kind of gradually push the tape down. It won't take it completely off, so it'll still kind of hold as a brace to hold up some of the paint that I need it to. So I need to get as good a connection as I can to the wood, so that I make sure it doesn't peel off. That way. Now, all of this is new to me. I'm just testing it out. Some of you might know better ways to do it, or you'll find new ways. If you do, great, use it. If you do, you think it'd be a better way for me to do it, go ahead and just put it in comments. I'll look at it and see. I'll see it in comments, and whenever I do a project, start doing it that way. Like I said, since I'm doing this for the first time trying all this out, I'm not gonna. It's just, I'm testing theories on my part, what I think might work and what would be a good idea. So anything I'm doing, I'm just trying to get as much as I can. I'm going to learn one way or another. If I learn from somebody else, great. It still shows me that people actually care and want to share their knowledge of how they do their stuff. Alright. And I just did that completely wrong. I pull it all back off again. Just thought of that. Screwed that up. I need to do it to this side. Shoot. That wasn't good. Didn't do anything to it. Alright, now to do this right. Put it on this side of it first. Put it on this, and then it'll work. kind of pointless putting it on the way I was, because now I was covering up what I needed to, what I was coating with the epoxy. You want to make sure there's nothing before you pour, except for the tape. I'm actually really happy with the way these came out. Not as much on the second one because it still had its clear points, but with how I'm doing this, it's not going to make that big of a difference for me, which is fine. I stuck my hand in wet paint. When I go to put my clear coat on, I'm not really as concerned with the paint, because I'll just go through and I'll just use a small grit sandpaper or green scratch pad, go through and do it that way. So as you can see how that's going to happen. So when the epoxy does start running down, it'll just hit the tape and gradually go down that, so it'll just keep doing the tape. Thinking I might have to do an extra layer, might not. Like I said, I'm trying this out just to find out. I should probably do this, probably do one like I did before, come back and do the second one, see if I correct something, but thinking it's about time I need to do both of these, get these done, and get on my other project that I'm using them for. I'm waiting to start on that until I get an idea how this stuff is turning out. Because actually what these the base and top's going to do is kind of give me an idea of how I want to decorate and do the inside of my diorama. So I'm using these just as kind of an inspiration, and so I know what I'm going to do for myself. As I'm waiting to do my diorama, because I'm actually going to be using a different product of resin, a different company. I got online. It's more for doing projects like jewelry and stuff like that than what this current product is. The stuff I'm using on this right now is actually more for doing countertops, to put a clear coat on a table or counter or bar or whatever you're gonna you want to give a good coating to. It does do real good at being clear. I've made a few mistakes with it that I probably shouldn't have done when I was doing them all, but it's fine. So far, my biggest mistake with this product was that when I went to heat it up in the water, to heat the resin up so it comes out not as bubbly and smooth and everything, is I put it in the hot water, help the resin get warm, is it actually sat in too warm of water. And this is the outcome from putting it in the cup. Within, and I'm not joking, within probably a couple minutes, it got to this point and hardened up. Like, it was great that it hardened that quick, but it literally melted the cup all the way through. So I thought it was odd while I was holding it. It started getting warm. I looked down at it, or I looked at the cup, and it was that the cup had just started shrinking on me. As I panicked, I said, better get rid of this real quick. So it didn't turn out good. So I'm actually keeping it because it works good as a weight. There's actually a lot of epoxy in it, and it's another thing to tell me, if you screwed up, you need to fix it. This is something you need to fix. So I'm still going to use the same amount of epoxy that I did before, but this time, so I actually just took my resin and just put it in a couple water. It was warm enough. All I did was I just turned the hot water on, let it warm up as hot as it could go, and then put it in the cup and then just set the resin in it so that it'll dry. And that makes the resin a lot easier to pour and come out a lot smoother than what it does. Alright. So what I'm going to do, go ahead, I'm going to set these up so when I go to pour them, I don't need to do anything else and it's already set up. And to kind of help with my mess, I actually took granted the silicone mat will keep the epoxy from sticking at all, because it would just peel right off. But I went on ahead and just took wax paper and laid it down because it comes off just as good as it works. Don't use epoxy, don't use the wax paper as just trying to hold something down, especially if you're wanting something very clear, because when you pull it up, it actually gives it a foggy effect and it'll throw it off. So alright, so I'm going to just take old cups that I have epoxy in, set them on. The paint going around, I said. I didn't paint it all the way through, or paint it perfectly, just dark enough so that if it does run thin, which I'm guessing it probably will, it won't show through. It will give me what I need. With doing it this way also though, I don't have as much control over making the piece balanced or perfectly flat, and that it might run off a little bit. So if you're trying it this way, make sure it's not tilting too far one way, and that you're right there on it as it's coming off. So two cups. It's good that I don't always throw my cups away when I'm doing my projects, because I can use them. I go through and reuse them again. And with this epoxy, because it way it does set, if I let it says it's supposed to cure within so many hours, and luckily it doesn't actually do that. It does take some time before it does cure on me. So, and on this one, I'm not going to mix the same way. I'm not going to use the big cups. I'm just going to go ahead and use smaller cups, which will be fine. It's not going to throw anything off. Because when I go to mix the two, I can just go ahead and just use the big cup, spray it, pour it in, and pour it on. So go ahead, start off zeroing it out. Get the resin, get going. Just make sure you dry off your bottle or whatever you're using, the container that it's sitting in, beforehand. Now, one way I've seen to do it is that you can take it after you've actually mixed the two together to make one big thicker thing of liquid. Actually put it back in the warm water and let it sit, because it will actually help. I know that the 30 grams will fit in this good, easily. I could probably mix them all into the same thing, but since I'm going to be putting the paint in with it, it's going to throw me, just be a little bit less mess for me. So, that. And since I'm putting the two in different bottles, I'm going to go ahead and just take what's in the cup and set it in the cup of warm water, so it will keep the water or keep the epoxy warm. So when I go to mix it with the hardener, it's a little easier to pour. I could probably go through and do double everything since I'm doing the two, but I'm not going to do it that way. I'm not, because I want to try and get the same amount on each one. Because I could probably go through and just use half of whatever and just put way too much in on this one with a hardener. And with these, I had the idea because I kept having a problem where I was putting it over just like how I did. I kept pouring more in than what I should have. Well, to get a more accurate thing is I just went to the store, bought 2 dispenser bottles, about $1, $1.50 for a bottle each. And I said, well, I don't need nothing special, and it's not going to be anything drastic that I'm going to need to put it for. So I said, well, I just use these. Made sure I separated the difference in them. Alright. There. That says it's a lot more because of the extra, but I know I need it a little bit more. We're just putting it in the dispenser. It just allows me to get control of how much I'm putting in, a little bit more or a little better. And with my scale, if it sits long enough, it'll just automatically put it on hold. It was just a cheap scale anyway, so there. One way to check to see if you're close to being right, since this is off, reset it to 0. Weigh that. I got 34. Go ahead, check my next one. Go down. Yeah, it's close enough for me. So now that I have that, as you can kind of tell already a difference. Try to get it into the light. There's not as many bubbles. Then you got your then my hardener. It has a lot more because it's thicker. It's not sitting in the warm water. So I'm going to go ahead and mix both together. I'll use it in a small cup so I can pour it, and I'll use my big cup when I go to spray. So actually I'll just go ahead and just pour it all in the same as the hardener, so I waste. Doing it this way is a great process if you're trying to do something clear or something really transparent. As I was getting tired of having the issue of sitting there constantly hitting it with a heat gun, let it sit for a couple of seconds or minutes, come back, do it all over again, and just keep going. And I knew there had to be other ways to do this online. And I finally found a guy that had a few different ways the way he did it, and they all seemed to work. So they worked that well for him. I like the outcome of how it did. So well, this guy had a pretty good process. Since this is just going to be a little over, I probably could have done this differently, where I just zeroed it completely out, put the same weight in over and over again, just into one cup, pour it in, and do it again, and just add the other in one cup, but I'm doing it a little differently. Sometimes people look at me as, well, that's kind of unorthodox way to do it, but just the way I do things, I guess. So just make sure you go through stir the amount of time that it tells you. Usually the amount of time it says to do it is 2 minutes on any epoxy. It doesn't matter what type it is. It always just seems that people tell you stir it for 2 minutes and it's good. But I don't know. Really, I've never really tried different epoxies because where I live, there's not many stores that actually carry epoxy like this. Looking in arts and crafts, hardware stores, everywhere. And with the COVID-19 still going on, a lot of our stores are closed, so I can't even go to just like normal hobby stores like Hobby Lobby to find what I'm looking for. And to go to Lowe's or Menards or anything like that, Home Depot, I've got a good hour drive, and I want a better excuse. Usually on stuff like this, I'll wait for an excuse why I need to go in town. And I don't like going in just for something small, for one thing, to look around for it and not find it. So most of the time, it's usually easier for me to order it offline. And you can kind of, as you can tell, there's plenty of air bubbles in it. One way to help that is to actually stir slow, but stir for a little bit more than the 2 minutes. But since I'm not, because I'm going to set it back in the water so you guys can kind of get the idea of what it's going to look like that way. Just letting it sit in the water a couple minutes and then pulling it out, how much of the bubbles actually are removed. I didn't think I'd actually enjoy doing epoxies as much as I am, and how much I do like it. So I'm constantly trying to find different things to do. Looking online, trying to get ideas. I know there's some people, they actually have books of what they do, and to me, it's if you have a book, why do you also have YouTube? Because if you're going to keep record of it, just go ahead and make a recording of it. Because the YouTube channel's almost like a book to me, how-to books. Most of the time people they're focused on one subject and they just keep coming back for it. They just keep showing you more and more random things, or unless they do the random stuff, which there are a couple. My channel was going to be that, but I decided not to. My intention was to be more towards video game oriented, because I am a big gamer. On my off time, or when I'm not doing this, and I don't have anybody really to watch my kids. I'm doing that. I'm playing games. Once they're in bed, I'll sit there and I'll play video games. And it's still kind of cool outside where I live, so it's hard to get motivated when you walk outside, it's raining and 30 degrees outside. It's kind of a pain. Don't really care for it. I'm not a cold weather person at all. Just don't have the body build for it. People say use it about 10 minutes. Let it sit for about 10 minutes or so. I'm not going to let it sit that long. Because my paint covers up a lot of what I need to do with it. So it's a little longer. There's also the guy showed that if you leave your stir stick, straw, whatever you're using, you leave it in it, and as the air bubbles come up, they will actually stick to the stick itself. And once they get to that point, or where it's pretty much the bubbles are done, you just grab the stir stick out, and the bubbles actually go with the stick. And it kind of that helps remove a lot of the air. And don't know if I can get it in the right light for you. You can kind of see that it started bringing out a lot of the smaller bubbles for me. And as they come up, they'll just pop and go away. Alright. I think I've let it sit long enough. Make sure the water's off of it. Alright. As you can see, it did turn it into a bunch of small little air bubbles, which fine. So pour in however much I want to use to paint it black. A little more. I don't want as much metal and silver in this one as I had. I gotta remember to mostly use a smaller cup, so it's not gonna look right. I put this back in the water, let it sit while I'm doing the other one to kind of help let it stay warm, make it a little easier to pour out. So when I do dump the silver in, the majority of it does come out of it. I don't have to worry about it as much. Alright. And remember, this is definitely going to be messy. So before you pour, make sure you have plenty of stuff down to keep it from going off. You can make a little bit of a hill so that it doesn't go over it. I've had to do that a couple of times from stuff actually leaking out, where I've lost 2/3 of what I was putting in. It was about 2/3 of whatever I poured that actually just leaked out, and it would ruin the project, and it turned out terrible. I tried doing something with a flower in it. As soon as I poured it, to be honest, it was with the one that melted the cup. As I had the idea, it worked on another project, smaller one I was trying out. As I just took a silicone funnel, set it down, and ran super glue around it. Or not super glue, but a hot glue beater all the way around to help with the seal and keep it in place. Well, when I poured that bad reacted resin in, it was reacting so fast, it melted the hot glue. So everything was leaking out. It wasn't making a complete seal, and it ruined the project, the flower that I had in it, and everything, because it was actually a live flower. Alright. And with the smaller cups, I actually prefer to use the small sticks like these than the popsicle stick. It just basically turns to waste. Just me having to spend more money on things is having to keep buying more and more cups because I'm using just big cups for small projects, and it doesn't go good. So and I just painted that black for some reason. Didn't pay attention. I'll go ahead and keep the black in there. Okay, I might be able to work with this since it's going to be poured into the black anyway. And since I stir it together, kind of do the swivels or the swirls and effect in the silver after it's poured. This kind of gives it the same effect. It's not going to throw it off too much. Just gotta make sure I get it all first. Okay. Now, move sticks so that it moves. Alright. Remember, when you pour it in, don't stir it. That's always the important thing. Alright. There's that. Now, here's the process to see how this does. So we're going to learn together. As my light that I have coming towards me is actually a heat lamp. It's a little ways away, so it does keep things a little warmer for me. And like I said, with it being cold out, that also helps a lot. It keeps me motivated and keeps me wanting to move. Otherwise, I'd constantly stop and trying to keep doing something over and over and over again. I can already tell my balance is wanting to go away from me. I'm going to need to hurry up and grab something to help kind of level it out, which is also another reason I like to keep my cups back that I've used that with dry resin in it, because I can use those to help balance out my whatever I'm doing. Make sure I don't get my jacket in it. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Alright. I kind of slowed up, keeping it running to the edge, that edge. Also, with letting it sit in the water, it helps with the chemical reaction. It actually starts helping it get smooth to cure. Okay, now I'm coming up this way too fast. Coming off this side a lot faster than what I'm wanting. Pull it away. And it gives you kind of an idea as to how fast one thing's trying to pull to the edge and the other. So you can use one that actually does cure a little faster than what I'm using. Mine says it's supposed to be palatable within 20 minutes, which it isn't. It's not going to be because of the spray paint. That'll actually throw it off. And then to help actually get it to the sides, just kind of run your stick over so that it does hit the edge, and that'll help bring it all the way to the edge. If the process doesn't turn out good, for me, I've already got a backup plan on it. Because if it doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead and just take and run something around the edge. I'll just use some sort of edging. Could be a type of paint. It could be some type of fabric. I don't know. It just depends on how this turns out, and I gotta find something that'll actually look right inside that. But with this, it looks like it might have slowed, trying to run to the different edges. And using the wood, it actually will soak in, and that will bring air out. It'll bring the air out and bubble up, and I don't want that. Or that's where it's also good to have the silver in, the metal flake, because of that. The silver flake helps it make it look like the bubbles, and they go away. Alright, back. It's pretty much slowed up on leaking out, or moving. I'm still able to do stuff with it, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how much better it is to do the swirls in effect before it's too dry. Now, remember one thing is that you're trying to keep it from going to the edge. If you finally got it to where it's staying in, or staying on top, try and make sure when you're doing it, you're actually coming from the outside of it. That'll help keep from just pushing it off the edge. So you can see that it's thick enough, or it's hard enough that it's actually staying on, or staying in a better design. That most of this stuff, or most of my designs, it's just random stuff. Did what I did before, stick in it. Avoid that, by the way. Make sure you hold your stick, whatever you're using, make sure you're holding it firm enough that you don't drop the stick like I've just done. Now I've got a different design going throughout it. And this stuff is still stickier than it always. Well, I just discovered something on my camera, so I don't know how much of this stuff you actually had gotten at the beginning of it. Didn't realize my camera wasn't plugged in right. Doesn't have a very good battery life. And so this is still somewhat of a new camera, and I haven't used it much, so I'm still trying to get used to things on it. I knew about the battery ahead of time, I just didn't think anything of it, because I've done other stuff where it stayed on the entire time. So now that this is thickened up and everything, I gotta move it out of the way so I can do my next one. Just gotta make sure I move it without dropping the other one. even though it was fine before, it'll still move. Try and kind of keep an eye on it when you're doing it. So there was one thing I did notice that I was going to do differently, was I'm actually going to raise the tape up a little, let it kind of go where it's not laying flat. I'm actually going to kind of make a channel going all the way around. It'll help with the waste and also help me kind of track down, and gives me a little bit of a heads up of what's actually not working right. Just remember, you know, you're not going to have much going around. First I considered actually laying it on the, just setting it flat, but I don't want to fight with trying to get it to come up when I go to pick it up. Alright. Kind of a little bit of a channel type moat. Alright. So the first thing, measure out my stuff. Off. Don't know why I turned it on again. Alright. Now I'll do it the other way, where I was thinking I'd probably just use one cup the entire time instead of just separating the hardener and the resin. Alright. Just gotta remember my numbers. Alright. 30.8, so I need 61.6. Since I need to get it a little closer, that's why it's always good to have these little dispensers. Give me just one more gram. Yeah, close enough. Alright. Stick. I'll use popsicle stick on it. Like this. Right. On this one, I'll just go ahead and use a stir stick so much. And I use the flat side to kind of help mix it together. Make things a little easier on myself. Now remember, just when you're mixing, try and make sure you get it all. Just go ahead and just, like you're trying to scrape it out. And you're also making sure the stick's running across all over the bottom, so you can still making sure everything is coming out of it. And we're doing it in the stick, or doing it in the same cup like this, because it does have its advantage. Because when you gotta pour the two to mix them together into, after separating them, measuring out each into their own individual cup, when you go to mix it, whatever one you're pouring, you gotta let it sit, and you're not all of it's gonna go in, so it's gonna throw off your count just a little bit. And since I don't have a lot of cups, big cups around right now, I'm trying to kind of save them, save a few, what ones I do have. I know Dixie cups are pretty cheap, so. And always remember, I always hated it when your time flies when you're not wanting it to, and when you do want it to, it takes forever. 2 minutes might not sound like very long, but it actually, sitting here doing this little thing, 2 minutes take forever. But it's always worth it because it helps with everything. Alright. This one I'm still not going to mess putting it in water. Go ahead and just dump it in. Alright, now, don't make the same mistake twice. Make sure I grab the right color. Black. It's always better when you're doing it, you're not sure how much you want to put in. Always remember, put less before you put more. It's always easier to add. You wouldn't be able to add just a little more rather than not being able to take too much out. You don't have to stir the paint as long as if you're mixing it, but sometimes it feels like it's taking just as much time. Now that's mixed. Grab my silver, make sure it's silver before I paint it black. I don't know if it's because of just the type of paint that it is, because this silver paint might be breaking down a little differently because I'm using a different type of spray paint. Because this one that's more for like rims to a car or something. So I'm thinking whatever the process they use to make that might actually be different than the other one that I'm using, the black. So it might be kind of throwing my design off a little bit. Because even with this silver, it's still giving me a swivel design, like a swirl design, which I think that might be also something that's throwing me off on my other, or when I do pour it and waiting for it to be able to do the swirls. Alright. Okay, before I start, kind of raise these up a little bit again. See if I can crease the edges a little better to help with it. Now, but probably some of you are thinking is, if I'm wanting it to be level, why don't I just put it on something that I've gone through and made sure and put a level on and made sure the whole thing is level. But that's just me doing my things, not really thinking it through and really worrying about if I'm doing something wrong. It'd be kind of neat if I could just keep this design in it. Actually, I kind of like this. I can already tell. Now my balance is actually almost the exact opposite of what mine was, and what that last batch was. I said, hopefully I didn't screw up on my camera and you guys not get anything of what I did on my first video, or on the first part of this process. So I can already tell that this side's down further, so I gotta try and level it out again before I do anything. And with the metallic, it also kind of gives me an idea of where it's going, because it actually shows, you can see the silver running off. Alright, that's going way too fast to that edge. This one I think I'm going to have to really mess with. So I'm going to have to do a lot of waste management on this one. Kind of nice not to have to mess this section right here up, because I kind of like the effect of that compared being with this. Damn, it's dripping off a lot. A lot dripping off this side. That's definitely off. Do this again. You're probably thinking, well, why don't you just take something and put underneath it? Because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing now. Oh, shoot. And I'm getting stuff sticking my way into stuff. had an issue on my first one. Just knocked over the whole thing, and a cup just landed in it. So now I gotta work on trying to fix this. Took another clear cup. Took another cup, put it underneath it. Another one of the drips. Put that there. This one's doing a little better. Looks like I might have to do one thing I didn't want to do. Put this first coat down, let it sit, and then go through and do another coat of it, because a lot of it's actually just running straight off for me. I need to use a stick on this, not the find all my spots, put something underneath it so I know it will kind of help. I can try and fix my other one real quick. Yeah, that's not coming out very well at all. Now all I gotta do is wait for the drips to go for a while and gradually keep adding. I don't particularly want to go through and redo this entire thing. Not really. It's gonna suck. Sucks also because when I picked that up, as I actually stuck part of my sleeve in it and made that piece, so I'm getting it all over myself because whenever I move my hand close to my body. Alright, so you guys see what I'm doing, having to go through and just trying to collect whatever's dropping off and keep messing with it as it goes. Since you can see what I'm doing off that, I'm just going to go ahead and stop the video now and kind of fix everything I messed up a little bit on. Attempt to affect or kind of touch up what I did on my other one where since it fell, and then going through and just catching what I can, pouring it back on until it gets thick enough where it's not pouring itself back off, and then go through and make my effect in it. So I'll bring you guys back when I'm back onto that, so it might take a little bit. So alright, now I'm back. It's been a couple days, actually let this sit. Definitely cured up good enough now. I put a lot of thought into how I wanted to do this again. I don't even think I'm going to put a clear coat on because it's pretty good how it came out. And then my idea for the side, I'm actually just going to take and put some sort of edging on it. Or take fabric or something to put on. I haven't really decided which. I just want to get this done. Get this video out there. It's been a while since I've posted anything, so I've been wanting to do a video for a while. I want to get this one up and going. Easier to cut. Okay, that was weird. Smack that down pretty hard. Alright. 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 Okay. And trim off some of this excess thin stuff.
Need your assistance. We've listened long about getting clothes. They finally got the clothes.
Alright. Okay, that's not going to be perfect, but I can adjust off that. Alright, so what I decided is I'm going to take probably the best two sides, which I think is this. Well, I don't know, I kind of like this look of it on this one. Actually, looking at it more, I might actually just do the clear coat on a couple of these. This one, it went through pretty good. I can go through and clean up on what I cut off. It might not actually be a clear coat, I might just run a real thin thing of black and silver again across them. That's why I like using the wax paper, because it works just the same as the silicone. The resin will just peel right off. Get it out of the way. Alright. So, what I'll do, I like the top of this one, but I like the bottom of this one. You know, I kind of like that too. So I actually like that bit of that silver, how it separated that much. Alright, so what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to set them up just like this. Pour a little bit on it, kind of help darken it up. I'm not even going to worry about setting them on cups and raising them up and everything. I'm not going to mess with all that. I'm going to just keep it here and do it that way. Alright. Again, I'm not doing much. Alright. Make sure everything working. Or do it again. For some reason I never seem to remember to do this. Alright. For this one, I'm probably only going to use about 10 grams of each in each cup. See if that goes back to 0. Haha. That's what I was hoping. Alright. Okay. Alright, let it start mixing itself together. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and let that sit. I'll go ahead and mix up another batch of resin and hardener for just in case. Alright. Let those two kind of mix together some, and then I'll go ahead and great. Okay. Let that sit a little longer. Alright. Okay. Alright. Take a little. A little bit of silver. Just so I know. Alright. Silver. See how this does. Alright, now see what happens. Go. Might be too thick of a coat, but I don't know. I'll find out. Good having the next one ready. The look of how that starts off, just it gets my eye every time. I just love how it does that as it starts rolling and smoothing out. How much of a change it actually has on itself just by tilting it the different ways. It does so much that you just can't do with a stick trying to mix it together. Help it kind of spread itself out. Wonder if I can use a top gun. There, gun. See what that does for it. This. Use the stick all the way out to the edges. Just doing this, it gives it a new design, which I'm starting to really like these designs. And as it sits, I think I'll be able to come back as it sets up a little more. When I come back, I might be able to help it spread out a little more. Go ahead and finish mixing my second one. A little bit of my silver. And black. I also got away from doing it for a couple of days because it got real cold over the weekend, and really wanted to make sure this stuff set up before I started messing with it again. So I just let it sit for a couple of days. That's why I waited so long. I think I just realized I screwed up on something, but I didn't mix any of it together. I didn't mix the resin and hardener together at all. I just took it and poured it in. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and mix all this into one as one, and then I'll just make a real small batch for the silver. Can't believe I just did that. Wasn't thinking. Trying to figure out why it started mixing it. It looked funny. Now I know why. This one might have a funny reaction to it. Hopefully not. I can get this to work out right. Technically, I probably should just go ahead and redo all of it and not mess with this and use it for something else. Just dump it on something. Waste it. Thinking that's what I'm going to have to do. Let's just get rid of this one, since I just screwed up. I turn that on when I don't need it on yet. Cups. Can't believe I did that. I don't like wasting resin. It's not always cheap. But luckily it wasn't very much, it was just a little bit. If I wasn't using it for a video, I probably would have poured it on and just see how it turned out as a test. But I don't want to do that because I want to show you guys a better process. Alright, now that I know I got 10, I'm just going to go ahead and add the 10. 10-3, 10-2, so I got 24. Go that way with it. Okay. Alright, there's that. Now, let's mix this. Do this one right. If you're going for a clear one, if you want to completely clear, don't mix it the way I am, because you're definitely going to get the air bubbles. I'm just kind of trying to make up for what I did. Alright. Go ahead and use the cup that I used for the last one. Alright, there's that. That'll be the silver. I'll wait to do silver. I'll do the black first since I have more to mix. Okay. For some reason my black looks like a brown. I don't know why. It pours out black. So I noticed that when I used it on something else, I used, because I'm using a flat black, and that kind of, when I sprayed it on the other, what I was using it for, it came out as a different color and it threw me off. Alright, now my silver. I had an idea what I'll do for that batch I just screwed up. Gonna mess with something. I've been pouring little practice batches of just this stuff, this process, just pouring flat ones out on just random scrap pieces of wood. I'm probably just gonna wind up doing that with it, getting to get an idea of what I'm doing. Okay. Now, clear out the area so I can pour this. Off to the side. A problem with that evidently is just dropping whatever I'm using into the project I'm working on. Second time I've done that. Third or fourth, I don't know, I've lost track. See how this does. This one doesn't have as much of a silver design to it, which ain't too bad. It kind of brings some of it out in the design, I guess. Put a swirl into it somewhere. Alright, let's see how this does. Put a little black into that one, just kind of mess with it. Help spread. And that seemed to do it. All I'm trying to do is get it to spread out to where I need it on the edges. Because there's still a couple spots where it's just kind of going around, it's not actually sticking to it. So I'm trying to get it to cover all the spots. Really in the weird areas. Now with the silver I can also see. See where it's running off while it's doing this. Alright. So I'm going to let this sit. I think this will be the last of what I'm going to do with the epoxy on this. So most likely not. I probably won't even do the video for the how I'm going to do the edges. I'm not going to add that into the video. You'll see what I actually decide to do when I go to do the diorama, which is going to be a while, which I don't know. Still waiting for my epoxy to come in the mail, but I don't know how long that's going to take. I definitely want to wait to use that new epoxy for that design, for that project. So this is it on this. Hopefully it'll come out better than just the one coat. It should. So with the first layer down, this will also help, kind of help with the spreading, with the keeping it from moving as quick as it was. If you understand how I meant that, it's not going to spread as fast with this first layer. I'm not sure what this little particular thing is in here. A little bit of a, looks like I actually have something in it that's sticking up and making a little bit of a bump in it. Might just be a little piece that picked up somewhere from when I peeled off or I cut off. So before I go, I'll do something with this new, or with this other stuff. See what I can come up with this. It's gonna be something real quick and easy. Just gonna use the hot glue. Turn it up. Actually, I could probably use try using clay. Let's see how this does. What I'm doing with it. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted. Kind of warm it up. Warm up this clay, then I'll stretch it out so I can make my little design. Okay. Clay to help stick it down. It's actually peeling all that old stuff off the wax paper. It's kind of neat. Didn't expect that. Alright. Go ahead, push all this down, seal it. Get a seal going for it. Alright, so this is the one that I messed up on. Go ahead, pour it out. Since I used a cup that already had some of the silver and metal flake in it, it's going to go ahead and now it has a little bit of a metallic look. Well, what I poured out doesn't look like it's going to spread quick enough. A lot less than I was expecting to be put into it. Alright. Might not have had to use the clay. Might have gotten away with it. So, alright, well that's everything for now. This is the end of this video. So, once all this is done, I start on the next process of the diorama. I'll come back, do it again, or show you guys how this is all turned out. Show you what I've done to the edges of how I decided to go ahead and use, or what I'm going to use for it. And we'll go from there and start on that. Thanks.